Welcome back, dear viewers, to the Musings of Maverick channel, where today we're going to be watching the grand finale of Fairy Gone. So, we've pretty much covered all the story, tied up the loose ends, well, I guess mostly. Anyways, honestly, I shouldn't even say that. There's a lot of loose ends since there's a lot of characters here. But in terms of the main plot, right now we got Three and Wolfram going up against the remnant of the Iron's Order, which I assume they'll take care of in due course. But more importantly, we have a fairy beast running amok, right? And it's up to Maria and Veronica, to a certain extent, to stop them. To stop it, I should say. And what I'm thinking is going to happen here is maybe they're going to still have some action in it, right? At least stop the beast from destroying everything, get him to calm down, and then maybe have a nice talk with them, right? We do know that Maria and the others who are bounded with fairies are able to understand them, so it would be very logical to conclude that they're going to have a conversation, and that's going to end this whole thing, right? Now, I still stand by my prediction that what's going to happen is the fairies are going to maybe go to another dimension and leave this world of mankind, right? And in the future, mankind will be on their own. Is that true or not? Let's find out. Alrighty, so I skipped the opening song, and let's just start into the story in 3, 2, 1, play. Reed Sky joins. Oh yeah! Damn, that was fast. I mean, he's going up against 2 former fairy soldiers. I'm surprised that he's even going toe to them. Oh. I still don't get it. Like, what is the order trying to do? Like, overpopulation or something? Come on. He just has a leg injury. He can take care of himself. Ooh. What? You were literally walking. Like, she left them and said she's going to stop the fairy beast, so I assume Veronica was going to send them to safety, and then she... Oh my god. Never mind. Whatever. Right, and I would venture a guess and say if they get the possessed organ out of the beast, that's probably the way to set it free. There we go. There we go. Let me distract the divine beast a little bit. Ooh. Have you guys considered, you know, sneaking up behind it instead of going face to face with it? Oh. Ooh. I gotta admit, that looks pretty cool now. Oh. Damn. Oh. Okay, I wasn't expecting that. I didn't think she would succeed, but is that fatal though? It definitely looks fatal. Hey, it's the last course ending song. Oh. How's she not dead yet? What? Damn. Very. No? Pairs are merging? Oh, damn. So, are fairies an extension of, their owners? Ah, here's free. You're not gonna pick up the fairy weapon? Well, I guess Free also has one. Okay. Yeah. Free is going to... Oh, here's the opening. Why? Why would you go to the front of... Oh. Ah, never mind. Alright. Well, let me mute this for a while. Isn't... Okay, they succeeded in wounding it. You're up, Maria. Oh, it's going by itself. And there's the possessed organ. Just like that? Alright. I mean, she shouldn't. Yeah. Similar to what Wolfren. Hmm. Similar to what Wolfren realized from. Right, and then here's the aftermath. Right. Who's gonna be the new prime minister? The director? So I guess now we're at least going to see what happens to all the different characters we've seen. Okay, so still the wrecker. Oh. Hey, see? See? I knew it. No, I would bet good money. Oh, alright. That makes sense. And here's Sweetie. Off to adventure. Free went back to his village. I mean, sorry, not Free. Wolfran. And here's her original family. Or, well, near family, anyways. The Mafia. The third Mafia group. And there's Free beside her, right? Yep. There's Free. Alright. At least we got to see what everyone was doing. Alrighty, so there we go. That is the entirety of Fairy Gone. Honestly, for this episode, it actually turned out quite a bit better than I was originally anticipating, considering the very opening and the scene with Free and Wolfran and whatnot and Mercier. But I was pleasantly surprised by how things turned out, right? And I didn't, props to them. I really did not think they would kill off Veronica here. And I know this is gonna sound kind of heartless, but I do believe that it was the correct choice to let her stay dead, and so not have this big happy ending at the end where everybody is reunited, right? I feel like her death there actually had impact. The overall the overall execution of it was pretty well as well. The it definitely came unexpected, and they didn't dwell too long on her dying breath or whatnot. Although, if I were to nitpick that scene, I would actually not let them talk. Well, if they were going to talk like that, how should I say it? So during that entire scene where Veronica was already wounded by the beast, right? And it was quite obvious she's gonna die. She has like a huge hole in her abdomen. She would be bleeding out anyways. My initial thought was that, hey, this is another situation where our main characters are talking on the battlefield when there's an enemy literally right next to them, right? However, this could have been easily fixed if they just if the beast pierced Veronica and then just simply left, right, and not actually did any more attacks. Now, I feel like maybe a better execution of this would be for Veronica to just simply die from her wounds in Maria's arms, and then as she's dead, once she's dead, and then maybe Maria's crying over her body, then the fairy comes out of her and merges with Maria, right? which gives her the strength to get back up and then chase after Beast again, and then we can allow 3 to come in, and then they do the rest, right? I feel like that would have been a much better execution of that scene, but that is my opinion. It would definitely work. It would definitely help explain, like, why did the Beast allow them to have so much time to talk amongst each other, so on and so forth, right? So, but anyways, I did like the entire concept of that. I feel like that was it actually, you know, made it feel like more real in a certain way. And the animation in this episode was actually quite a bit better. I'm not gonna say it's good, but you know, there were some scenes that I was impressed by, particularly when Veronica was doing her stuff and fighting against the Beast, right? There were a few scenes where I thought it really did look quite cool. Not so much the 3 and Wolfram fight against Griffin, right? But yeah, I was impressed by a few scenes with that were against the Beast. And the ending dialogue, you know, the ending theme or moral of the story, if you will, that was being said in a monologue by Maria, you know, that was actually quite poetic and meaningful at the same time, which you can't really say of a lot of the dialogue within this series, right? But that ending, you know, that ending lesson, ending story, however you want to call it, I feel like that, you know, that brought its point across, and it was the words used flowed in a nice way, let's just say. So props to them for actually ending this on a high note, at least. Now, with that being said, of course, within this episode, there are still a lot of decisions that I really can't agree with, and it's really mostly to do with storyboarding, right? Like, for instance, like, something that really frustrated me to no end is why our characters, our protagonists in this episode, you know, they constantly want to face the Beast heads on, right? Like, what is the purpose of that? The Beast is literally fixated on going to the palace. You can just go back from behind it and whatnot and try to get off a sneak attack or whatnot. You know, that happened the same with Veronica and Maria, and that happened with 3 and Maria as well, right? Like, 3 and Maria, in that scene, they were literally behind it, chasing after it. And then 3, you know, in his... I guess moment of genius, decided to, you know, just fly his car up and land in front of the Beast so they face it heads on. Like, where's the point in that? You know, you have all you need to do is somehow find a way to slice, you know, to slice an opening in the Beast, right? Like, why face it heads on? That makes literally no sense, right? So that's one of my biggest complaints of the storyboarding and decisions in this episode. The second one is, you know, the I guess, useless scenes of Dorothea. Like, if you are going to show them helping and you want to make a statement here as to, Maria, you're not alone, you have your comrades behind you helping and whatnot, then actually make it count for something, right? Maybe, for instance, the initial encounter, they distract the Beast enough so that Maria and Veronica were able to try and get close to the Beast and almost land a hit, right? Like, that could be something. Or, for instance, in this at the very end here with 3 landing the blow, like, make it so that instead of it's just 3 being the hero and somehow managing to dodge everything and open up a wound in the Beast, like, make it a team effort, make it a collaborative effort. You got Dorothea, your new comrades standing behind you, they're giving support and whatnot. Like, how that would have made so much sense within the storyline as well, and the moral of the story that this series was trying to tell us in regards to Dorothea, right? We know that these comrades, these people are the reason why 3 and why Maria are currently fighting, and they're not giving up, and so on and so forth, right? So why not make that count for something instead of just them for like making a cameo appearance, shooting one or two shots at the Beast and then retreating? Like, what was the purpose of that? They could have made that scene much more impactful and a positive impact on the story. So, yeah, and you know, other various little things as well, such as, you know, like the initial beginning part of this where they were running away and then they split up and then they reunited again, like, whatever. But that's trivial, right? These are the more egregious things that, that I have an issue with. And so anyway, but if overall you want, talking about this episode, I would still say I enjoyed it more than the parts that I didn't enjoy, let's just say. And at least at the very end there, we did have a small cameo appearance to most of the important characters that we've seen so far. So at least they did that, right? Now, let's talk about Fairy Gone, this series as a whole, right? And I've harped on this many times before, but this is the actual series review, right? So I'm going to have to mention it once again. Really, this series has a lot of ideas, and it has some cliche ideas, some great ideas, some tried and true ideas, but the execution falls flat every single time, right? And let's not even talk about the specific events, because the events and plotline is a mess. Let's be honest here. There's a lot of things that are unexplained, lots of backstory, lots of things that just happen because they happen. But let's not even go there, right? Let's just talk about the characters, because in this series, most of the characters are as deep as a puddle, all right? With the maybe exception of Maria, who is a little bit more developed. So let's just talk about our main characters, right? So first of all, Veronica. So, her character could have been much better, right? So for instance, even till the very end here, we don't really know, like, why does Veronica care for Maria so much, right? Like, sure, they were friends and they were good sisters, I guess you could say, as kids and whatnot, but, overall you can get the idea that it was always Veronica that was taking care of Maria, right? So, like, and Veronica was good to all of them. She was good to all the different characters, all the different kids. So why was Maria special to her, right? Like, what happened there? They could have shown a lot more for that. And maybe Veronica, it's just, sort of like the sisterly love, motherly love. She wants to be the big sis to Maria. So, that's just her personality, right? And if so, then they could have emphasized it a lot more, shown it a lot more, right? Instead, here we just get her, so she was originally this well-loved person, and then she was good with everybody, and then just because everybody was killed, then she was hell-bent on revenge, and she never really, thought of Maria all this time, and then suddenly when Maria shows up, and they are the best of buddies, best of besties, and best of sisters, and I can do anything with you, right? Like, what? I mean, it's not hard to imagine or envision this kind of, this kind of love between them. It's just you could show it a lot better with, many more different scenes instead of just the lip service that we were given with the interactions between Veronica and Maria so far, right? And honestly, like, their dialogue is. It's just bad, right? A lot of times I'm just like, is this written by like a high schooler or something? It could have made a lot more impact. It could have been a much better story in regards to their relationship, right? So that's Veronica. Let's talk about 3. 3 here is, he's an interesting character in the fact that he's the source of a lot of the morals within the story, right? Particularly, at the end of the last core, the entire idea is that, even though he fought within the Unification War and he was a fairy soldier in there, he killed a lot of people, and he was on the losing side, but so what? The war is over, right? We have peace now. We should strive to keep this peace, and that is why he's working for the current government, those that actually beat him. And they could have expanded on that point a lot more, right? Like the sacrifices that 3 had to make in order to do this. Especially because later on he's the one who's picking up Wolfram, right? Like, his version of justice versus Wolfram's version of justice, idea of justice, they were clashing in this part, so it would have made much more impact if we could know what 3 actually went through, and if he's arrived at this conclusion, then it's all the more, he has more stuff to back him up in saying, like, I'm not just saying this for the sake of saying this, right? I'm not just taking the moral high ground. I've lived through it. I've been hurt by it, and this is the conclusion that I've reached, right? So that's also something missing from 3 that I feel like they could have done. Like, for instance, I still remember it, right? Like 3, the reason that he is still alive today is because one of his, I guess, seniors, if you will, sacrificed his life to save him, right? And maybe that senior could have been like a very close brotherly figure to him, like a big bro to him. They could have showed a lot more in regards to, their relationship and how much Free looked up to him, how much Free misses him and whatnot. And yet, even with that in mind, he's still saying, okay, even though this country is the exact one that killed my beloved brother, still, I'm not going to let his sacrifice be in vain. I want to keep the peace now. I want to carry on the memories of him, carry on the memories of the dead, and that would make much more impact on the story. It would make us relate much more with Free's character, and it would make his words a lot more believable when he's talking about this to either Wolfran or Maria or anyone else, right? And speaking of Wolfran, so, like, even for his case, like, why... I can totally understand, right? He's lost his family, so he just, he's had enough of this world. Like, but how do you change your concept from having no hope left in the world and then joining a cult that wants to completely wipe out the world, right? It's not even revenge against the forces that killed his family, right? It's just, I want to wipe out all of humanity, right? Like, how did he actually fall to that kind of state? We're never shown him to do that, because, like, think about it, that is a very, very radical idea, right? Wanting to kill all of humanity, or at least most of humanity, due to this, right? He should be much more crazier, much more mad and whatnot, in his demeanor and whatnot, or what he actually thinks of. Like, I want to go through his thought process, right? And I want him to actually exemplify this a lot more in his words and actions. And yet, in the end, he's still cool, calm, and collected. And of course, you can also say that because of this, he's always been distancing himself from the cult, and that's why he was able to change back. But he's done a lot of stuff for the cult, right? A lot. The Ain's Order, basically. So, without that entire part, Wolfran as a character is just not all that relatable, right? Sure, it's relatable that he lost his family, and that's definitely something to feel sad with and sympathize with, but his entire actions later on, that is not relatable, and we can't really understand what he is thinking and why he turned out the way. So just the main characters here. And then I'm not even going to get into most of the minor characters, right? Like, for instance, Damien, like, he knew of all this all along, yet he never said anything until it was almost already too late. Like, what's the Mafia's role? Like, why are they so preoccupied with trying to turn a coup, trying to assassinate the Prime Minister? Like, what is their stake in this, if you will? Ray Dawn, I've said numerous times in past 2 or 3 episodes how I feel like he should have been a tragic hero, and he's really, really underdeveloped in regards to things that he could have done. Like, he could have been made into a very complex character, and instead he just basically died, right? Same with the Prime Minister as well. This is a guy who unified all of Zestia. He was he's basically the one who kicked everyone his ass, and he could totally become the emperor himself, right? But yet he chose not to, right? So this is a great... He definitely has his own thoughts and his own greatness as well, and yet here he's basically killed off like it's nothing. Sweetie, right? I really do like Sweetie's character, but what's her deal with all this, right? Like, literally, why does she exist in this anime? Like, what importance does she have, right? So, and that's just the characters, right? Even with all these, these flaws in the characters and the flaws in the stories and whatnot, I think even more frustrating for me is that how, this is a very cool world that's been built, right? We got all these cool fairies, these cool abilities, cool designs, yet it's never properly explained how they fight. What are the advantages and disadvantages of calling a fairy out in the battlefield? Otherwise, you would think that if they're so OP, then all fairy soldiers would basically be summoning their fairies right at the very beginning, right? Like, and why are, what's the purpose here? So basically we see very few combos with between the fairy soldier and their own fairy. It's basically fairy against fairy, and then fairy soldier against fairy soldier. Like, what's the fun in that? They could have done a lot more stuff in regards to these sort of combos and whatnot with these two, and that would have made these things a lot more compelling. That would make these fights a lot more compelling, right? Like, even if you have this limited animation budget or whatnot, or this limited talent or time that you can spend on the animation, still, if you make it cool enough, you make the concept cool enough, I feel like most people would maybe just choose to ignore the animation, right? So I think what I'm getting at is this. If there's anything that I want to, if I can sum this series up in one sentence, I wouldn't even say some. One thing that we learned from this is the author, Jumanji-san, look, you are very good at world building. I would even say you're great at world building. You make a lot of compelling ideas, you make compelling at least characters with compelling backstories. And you definitely have this grand vision in regards to worlds you build. Like, in this world, you have so many different factions. You have the mafias, you have all the former kingdoms, you have the current kingdom, you have all these different departments and whatnot, and they are all interconnected with each other. That's great, right? That is absolutely great. I really enjoyed the concept of Fairy Gone. Don't let him write the script ever again. That is definitely not his forte, and, just no, okay? You concentrate on the world building, get someone else to write the script and do the storyboarding. So there we go. I feel like that's my biggest takeaway from this series. And so yeah, well, at the very least, I did manage to discover a great music group, No Name, because of this. And seriously, guys, you can check out their music. And I believe they're also going to do something for the next season as well, for the 2020 winter season. They're also composing the music for this time a pretty prominent series, actually. And, they deserve it. Their music is good. This is a talented music group, and I hope them all the best. So there we go. That is my review of episode 24 of Fairy Gone, as well as the entire series. Really, lots of potential, still fall short in the end. And I thank you guys for coming along, right? Definitely, there were many times when I felt that I should just drop this, but since I already watched so much of it, I figured I would just carry on and watch it till the end. I'm sure that's maybe what a lot of you guys are thinking as well. But, well, there we go. That is Fairy Gone. If you guys watch my other series, or I don't know how many of you are here just for Fairy Gone, but I'd have other series as well. Feel free to check them out. I'm not gonna force you to. Like, I don't do that whole like, subscribe, comment kind of thing, but hopefully you guys do like my, those that are continuing to watch do like my method of going through a series and actually talking about it at the very end, instead of just some blind reaction, hype reaction, whatnot. So yeah, feel free to check out my other works as well. So there we go. Hopefully I will see you guys again. This is Maverick signing off. Bye bye.